Next question from Will Hupp. I often see players wearing new shoes every tournament or even within the same tournament. How do players break them in? How many pairs of shoes do you go through in a year?
Oh, I can't even. Well, so okay. This is, it has some factors. So, one, your companies want certain styles of shoes to be worn at different parts of the year. Nike opens or Adidas opens with a certain set of clothing. Some clothing manufacturers want it to be like a 4 or 6 month timeline for sales. Nike just wants flash and marketing, basically. Where the tennis athletes are basically marketing vehicles for Nike. Anything that's crazy, anything that's new creates buzz, rinse, repeat. You could barely buy some of the outfits that Serena wore for Nike. Like I don't know that you could buy a cat suit, right? But it was buzzy. Nike was front and center. It wasn't as if you were trying to sell the exact product. So they're all a little bit different. You wear them in during practice sessions, and you're not playing sets in them right away. You would be wearing them, and you'd probably walk around in them for a day. And then you would probably get in like a 20, 30-minute hit, and or you wear them for the first 20 minutes of warm-up and then switch to something that's worn in for actual sets.
Oh, interesting.
So you might be like, you actually have to take the time to think about doing it. But if you're traveling from Palm Springs, you get on a hopper flight to Miami, you're probably wearing them in the airport that day just to kind of get some steps in them and to break them in softly. You wouldn't be going and playing a match in brand new shoes, I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't have. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to be like, this person does it. Well, maybe they shouldn't. But the other thing that we're not discussing is bottoms on shoes. So you go to the clay court season, every pair of hard court shoes that you wear in March, your company will have changed by the time you get back to that surface in July or August. So those are all gone. Even if you have 6 new pairs that you haven't worn, see ya. Clay court bottoms, completely different. You got to be able to knock the clay out of them. You can't have like a smooth bottom to the shoe. You need ridges so the clay, you're not sliding, and you need to be able to like actually have some grit. After the clay court season, see ya. Grass court bottom, the little dimples. So it's constantly this kind of churn. I don't know what the total number for shoes for the year. I'm guessing it's based on certain players, certain things. If you're winning, is it practice? I don't know. But the churn is intense for many different reasons past, the way that I view it now. Just if I wear them out during dingles, I switch to the next pair when they're absolutely falling apart and you can't wear them anymore. So
like for hard court though, are you ripping through more shoes? Hard court? I mean, surface dependent?
Probably. And also it's dependent on like Indian Wells, because it's gritty, rips shoes. Like those things get balled quickly, like gone. Whereas other hardcourt surfaces like Australia is not as gritty, so it's not as bad. So it's there's a lot that goes into it. This is probably a very boring answer, but the churn is constant, and the amount of kind of slightly used and or new shoes that just get chucked would make listeners vomit. Like I took this picture a couple years ago at the U.S. Open. So at the end of the tournament, you'll have someone leave and the U.S. Open kit's gone. They'll probably throw you something for the fall if you have a contract with a manufacturer. And this isn't talking about people that are, maybe playing doubles or qualifying for the event. This is the people that are, largely playing singles the last, week of a slam. But they'll just leave their shoes, and they'll leave them for the attendants. And the locker room attendants can do whatever they want. So you walk in the last day of the U.S. Open, and where my locker is, no one else is really there. It's at the end of the locker room. No one's there anymore. And they have on the bench all of the shoes that have been left laid out. Some are brand new. You're talking like Nikes, Adidas, On. Like it's a shoe junkie dream. And they're going through the sizes. Someone's got an uncle in Queens who's going to get a new pair of Rafas.
Like sneaker con.
Yeah. You see the guys looking like, in the thing, he's like, I'm size 10, Yeah, size 10. So it's like, it's this fun kind of mini tradition that no one would ever see. But they have them all laid out the last day of the U.S. Open, and it's kind of like everyone's just rummaging through it. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Let me ask you an adjacent question to that. That I don't know the answer to. You know how like I don't know if they do it anymore. I mean, there used to be this whole thing with stenciled rackets, right? Where you'd switch rackets, but then you wouldn't get the right feel of it. And sometimes you'd be able to use your old racket, but you do a paint job and stencil it, right? Have you heard of a situation where someone has a shoe deal and they just can't make it work? Remember, like Zion Williams' shoe broke, or wasn't there a player? I feel like there's a story of this. Was there a player who had a new shoe contract and they just couldn't get it to work in those shoes? Have you ever heard of a player like putting a swoosh on something?
Probably the two things that I would tell every young player: you have to have the racket solution before you sign a new racket deal. I think Safin got caught in this purgatory when he went from Head to Dunlop back in the day, and he just couldn't quite find the thing. I know James went from Dunlop to Prince, and it took forever. And he had a stipulation where he has to find the racket before he actually switches over. So he was carrying a Prince bag with his old rackets in it forever. Like that's all he could do contractually. I'll tell you a story. I switched from Reebok when they dropped me and I signed with Lacoste. Great, fine, no problem. But then I had to find a shoe situation because at that time Lacoste wasn't making tennis shoes, which they do now, and Medvedev wears them. But Babolat didn't really make shoes, or the shoe they made wasn't really there. But they said, "Hey, could we enter this market for shoes?" And I was like, "Great!" And it ended up being the best-selling shoe in the States for tennis. But I had that stipulation: I am going to wear, because I had a certain last in Reeboks where they would make it specifically custom for, I have a wide flat foot, which you don't see in sports that often, right? Not exactly the prototype for athleticism, but
you see that like counting a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Reebok had the last, and so Babolat ended up, I think, purchasing that last exactly because I didn't want to mess with the shoe, and I had a stipulation in the contract. I'm only switching over to the Babolat shoes when I'm good and ready, and then the contract basically starts on my call. So you would have to be, I would think, if you have decent management and an IQ larger than your waist size, you would put that stipulation into any contract.
By the way, can I point out that you can get a Babolat Andy Roddick Pro Pulse on eBay? There's a mixture of never worn for $1,000 or worn for $30. Whoa. So these ones are sick. These are American flag.
I have those
printed.
Actually, do this. Don't give them any. Don't bring them back. I have the Stars and Stripes I wore them for the Olympics, and then my last tournament. They're probably the coolest shoes I ever had. I have a pair. Are we doing the subscriber thing? Are we doing? Do we have I'll give a pair away. We'll do a raffle.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I have a pair that still has the plastic on them.
Yeah. Go find our Chuckers Club on YouTube and hit join, and we'll feed that out to the Chuckers Club, and we'll figure out what that is.
They're sick. I think I have like 2 or 3 pairs left that are new, and it's the only shoe I've ever kept. Like Did you put these on eBay? Was it you? No. Times are tough. They're not that tough yet. But we'll give a pair away to Chuckers Club.
I love that. All right.
I'll either sign them, or if you don't want them signed, we'll do something else or write a note or whatever. We'll authenticate them. How's that?
These are sick. By the way.
Yeah, but they dropped me like a bad habit.